Hey guys, in this video we're going to go over the installation method for the Modin rigid vinyl plank. Keep in mind this only applies to the click floating version of Modin rigid. It does not apply to the glue down version. Prior to installation, you want to make sure that your boxes are stored flat. You want them horizontal and not along the edges, otherwise you risk damaging the click mechanisms. Begin by thoroughly cleaning your subfloor. Next, make sure you have the tools appropriate for the installation. You're going to want to make sure that you have plastic spacers, a pull bar, a tapping block, and a hammer. In terms of cutting, any electric saw is going to cut through this stuff like butter, particularly if you have a carbide blade. But keep in mind that it's not necessary. If you need to, you can score the planks with a utility knife and then bend and snap them. That does ultimately require more effort throughout the course of an entire installation, but if you don't have an electric saw, that can help save you in that situation. Once your subfloor is clean, you should start to measure the room to determine which direction you want to lay the planks. Most designers would agree that the floors are going to look best when running the long way of the room. So if you've got a room where you're uncertain, you can pull out the tape measure and measure it to be sure. The other thing to do with the tape measure is be sure that if you're starting with a full plank on one end of the room, you are not ending up with only a 1 or a 2-inch strip on the other end of the room. If you measure your space and you realize that you would end up with a small strip at the other end of the room, then you're gonna have to cut the first row to accommodate it so that you don't end up with that 1 to 2-inch strip on the other end. Now, as you prepare to begin the installation, make sure that you're pulling from multiple boxes at once. This is because the boxes are filled at random, and you may coincidentally get one box that has a few planks that match. You'll begin installation working from left to right. Insert the spacers at the ends and the edges where the planks meet the wall. This will give you the 1/4-inch gap that's necessary during installation. Remember, you have to have that 1/4-inch gap with floating floors to accommodate the expansion and contraction. Once that first plank is down, you'll take the second plank and you'll lock the short end of the plank by inserting the tongue into the groove at an angle. As you get closer to the end of the row, you're going to want to measure the space of that last plank so that you can determine how much to cut off for the final piece. When you begin the second row, you want to make sure that you start with a piece that is of a different length than the adjacent plank that you started the first row with. This will create a staggered design that's going to look more pleasing to the eye. There is no required way to stagger your planks. Once the first plank is down on your second row and you begin moving along that row, you'll start by inserting the long end of the plank first. Slide that plank toward the end of the previously installed plank until the tongue touches the groove. Use the tapping block to ensure a tight fit with the adjacent row. Next, you'll do a bridging technique where you use a scrap piece of the flooring to bridge the two boards that are almost touching at this point. This will create a track for that floor to follow as you tap it in place. Tap the end of the plank with a hammer and a tapping block to lock the ends of the planks together. Be sure to use the tapping block the way it's designed to avoid the click mechanism itself. When you get to the last plank on the row, repeat what you did in the first row and use the pull bar to ensure a tight fit. Continue with this process throughout the room until you're done with the installation. If you have any more specific questions about your particular installation, please feel free to give us a call anytime and we're happy to help.